ones I'm harvesting here are about 3.5 to 4 years old, which is about on average. My dad has owned the farm for around 40, nearly 45 years. I've worked here for 13 and I've taken over the farms just recently, so this is coming up to our second year in business.
So we're going to send off about 330 dozen of bistro, which is your quality restaurant oysters. So my name's Kirsty and I'm an oyster farmer at Wapingo Lake. Pretty beautiful lake, and you've picked a pretty good day to come down here. They go from catching slats to then be stripped off the catching slats to go into tumblers. And then once they get big enough, they go into these bags here, these floating bags.
The oysters this year have been quite muddy. We've had a lot of sediment after 4 years of pretty much constant rain. It doesn't affect the oysters at all, they're just still beautiful and plump. And yeah, the guys will show you through how we harvest and package our oysters to send off to our customers.
Grading these, just about every crop we do, we put through this grading machine before it goes through the big grading machine. Putting them through this rotary grading machine, and it got different size holes in it, and the different size oysters come out each hole, separating, pulling all the dead stuff off.
So my name's Kostianaros, I'm a third generation oyster farmer. My grandfather bought our oyster leases in the early 1970s when he migrated from Greece. And since then it's grown to be quite a large scale. Today is an opportunity to showcase all the oysters from the south coast, from Shoalhaven all the way down to Eden, and we can really show what we can do on the south coast. We're one of the biggest employers of people, employing hundreds of people up and down the coast, and it's one of the biggest exports that come out of the south coast other than tourism.
Two trays, 6 rounds.
Oysters are really susceptible to anything in their environment. We're really lucky here that the water's really clean. There's not much, traffic. In saying that there are lots of external factors that we can't control. Things like climate change, where the water heats up and the oysters aren't used to it. And that really affects their ability to survive.
Every year's a little bit different depending on how many closures and stuff we get, just due to rain and everything else that comes with nature.
So what we'll do is we'll take them back to the shed and just tip them straight into the bags they go into when we sell them. So they'll just go from down here at 7:30 now, and they'll be in the truck off to the destination by 10 o'clock, where they can be in the restaurant literally tonight or at lunchtime today if the restaurants are local. On an oyster this size, you can see that flat bit on the back there. That's how big it was when we first got it. We scraped it off the slat. You can sort of see the colour change there. So there's probably the first year, and then there's another one there. There's the second time we've graded it, and that's quite a nice oyster, that one. The other thing too when you're cracking an oyster open is it's quite easy to slip and cut your hand. So what I find is if I hold the oyster quite tight, the oyster won't slip and I won't come out of it. So it's just hold the oyster as tight as you can, and then you just put it in the hinge there, a little bit of a pivot, and we're in. So I'll just cut that off the bottom, flip it over, and that's how you'd present it in a restaurant. Why we turn the oyster is we can make that oyster I butchered hopefully look presentable. So we'll just be very careful there. Try and tuck that back under. And there you go. You wouldn't know that I've cut the top of that.
This was something that the business is more, it's more than just a business, something you're part of. Like when I grew up on the oyster farm, catching, like as a 5-6-year-old, just catching crabs and just following my dad and my uncle around, and then that slowly turns into helping them out little bit by little bit, and before you know it, the Clyde River becomes part of who you are, and it's hard of actually being able to leave it.
I like to do it by hand too because it makes you proud of what you've done over the last 4 years to get the oyster to the plate in the restaurant. So yeah, 4 years of planning to get them to your plate in the restaurant.